The session, are we live?
Give me 1 minute and we'll be live.
It just says live. You're now streaming on YouTube. Are we good?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I will reconvene the board meeting of the Park District of Highland Park, and welcome to the meeting our mayor, Nancy Roddering. The topic that we have, just to bring everybody up to the point, is that we have a motion before us to approve compliance, Cal, you'll correct the words, compliance with the governor's exec order regarding our facilities and the closures, but that would allow which would allow the rec center to remain open with limited use. We have an amendment to that would change it to comply with the City of Highland Park's executive order that would cause the rec center to be closed. And we were discussing in a global basis the amendment. Should I turn the floor over to you, Mayor?
Thanks, Barney. Thanks for letting me join your meeting. I think everybody needs to agree that we're on the same page, and the same page is to keep our constituents safe and healthy. And I recognize and appreciate that recreation is a critical part of that. But we also know, and I know I sent to several of you the chart from the Infectious Diseases Society of America stating that gyms, in-person gyms, are considered a high-risk activity. We don't make these decisions lightly at all because we know how important working out is to people. But as I mentioned earlier, the positivity rate in Illinois is 12.5%. The positivity in our region is 17.1%. And I think the more important data point is that we had 177 new cases of COVID over the weekend. We've had 729 for 8 months prior to that, and that's how rapidly the rise is. If you average out 729 over 8 months, it's 91 cases a month. We got 177 new cases in 2 days. We are at a crisis level. The estimates are that hospitals will be at or beyond capacity in less than 3 weeks if we don't change our behavior. And so I ask you, as our partner in working on behalf of our residents, to help us out. Everybody is making these sacrifices for about 30 days to see if we can just flatten this curve, just get the numbers down and get us back out of these restrictions. But if you looked at the governor's order today, they are diminishing access to retail businesses. They have closed down significant activities for pretty much everybody, including private fitness owners in this city. They're following our laws. So it sort of is kind of incredible to me that you're thinking of flouting an order that we are only putting in place to keep people safe. I get that you're committed to cleanliness and healthcare and safety. We all are. Please join us. Please join us on the same page and do the right thing for our community. Nobody is making these restrictions on a whim. We are doing it based in science, and we are doing it with the best of intentions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the mayor? Let me start with, we'll go with Cal.
I'll go last this time.
Okay, we'll go with Terry.
The issue I have 2 issues. The first issue is that if I was to have just spoken, I would have quoted numbers that have been quoted to me that says we are going with science, that science is saying that you're more likely to catch it at home with your family than you are at a gym that has 10 people and 20,000 square feet. Now, let's just put that one aside. The other issue I have, just as being in some ways, I'm very, I don't always like to be told what to do. I like to have a freedom of choice. And
everybody does.
Yes, and we are not mandating anybody has to come to this, that we are grown adults. We can present the numbers that we have, and we could say, this is a safe place, but if you choose not to come, And if nobody comes, then it'll be very clear to us that we shouldn't be open. And I just like to leave adults in some cases to have choices. And I just think the more we tighten down on people in certain ways that are maybe not as necessary as others, that we are making the problem worse. So every instinct I have is for the health and safety of our town. I've never, ever thought about anything else. I just don't see this as being that kind of issue, but that's just how I see it. And I respect you, Nancy, and I hear what you're saying. I just don't see us being independent of that as not being helpful. I just find it as being a different help for the people that are going to be more and more shut down in their lives. The colder it gets, and the more frustrated people get. I think this is a health and safety issue in and of its own.
So with all due respect, Commissioner Grossberg, I recognize you work in a school, and I recognize that pretty much people are required to be vaccinated before they can go to that school. I recognize that you probably drive a car and that you wear a seatbelt because it's the law. We can all say we have choices, but at the end of the day, when it is a matter of public health and safety, and your actions then can increase the spread of an infectious, deadly disease in your community, that's where the Public Health Department, that's where the Infectious Disease Society of America comes in and says, here's our recommendation. Here's what we think you need to do to mitigate the risk. We're not asking for a permanent shutdown. We all are making these unbelievable sacrifices. I'm sure you have an elderly parent or relative you haven't seen in forever. Most of us do. It's very, very emotional. It's very challenging. And I'm only asking for 30 days to help us flatten this curve and diminish the number of people who are dying.
So I just have a question. What did it, and I don't mean this with any disrespect. I've never, ever thought a disrespectful thing about you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Mayor, okay. So I just want to know, did it ever cross your mind, or was it ever a thought that you would correspond with a member of the Park District saying, I'm thinking about doing this. Can I have your thoughts on it before I make an edict? Because this definitely affects what we do and how we feel about things. So I just want to know if that was entered into your thoughts at all.
I had a conversation with your president, and I believe the city manager had a conversation with your executive director. So we don't make decisions in a vacuum. We are partners, and we reached out and spoke with 2 representatives of your organization in advance of taking this action.
And wait, Terry, let me speak. This is the same question that came up when Cal said something earlier. And as I explained, yes, the mayor called and I spoke. I told her I'm only one person on the board, and I'll just go through this, but I would support that 1,000%. And that I also said I was going to bring this up regardless of the action she was taking, and wanted it on our agenda tonight for a discussion so that perhaps we unilaterally could take this action. That's the conversation I had with the mayor.
I was not casting aspersions on you at all, Barney. This had nothing to do with you or what Cal had said before. I just wanted to know because we had not met yet as a unit, but this statement came out before we had a chance to meet. And so now I want to address, Brian, your conversation with Gita. Was it asked, was it say, hey, what do you think about this? Or was it a situation where it said, this is the way we're going to go? What are your thoughts? So are we allowed to be privy to this conversation?
Well, I mean, all I can do is explain that I was presented with the information. You know, I expressed my feelings on the situation, and that was the extent of the conversation. So, that answer your question?
Well, I just, okay, so now we know that it was talked about. And I don't know, was the suggestion ever put out there to the mayor or to the, to Gita could you possibly wait on announcing this until the board has had a chance to talk about it?
So my recommendation was basically what the information I shared tonight was that it would be very challenging, for I think our members to be limited to have the ability to exercise in an environment that we thought was very safe, and we would like to see people who have access to the availability to safely be in an environment where they could do what I had mentioned this evening. So my feedback was given, if that answers your question.
Okay,
So can I ask a quick question? The governor is requiring that recreational activities be suspended. And there's an important quote that I want to share with you. It comes from the Colorado Governor, Jared Polis. He said, "This is not a contest to see what you can get away with. This is a fight against a virus. This is a situation of emergency. Our economy is shot because of this. People's mental health is shot because of this. We recognize the importance of recreation. It has been suspended by the governor as a requirement. So I appreciate having a gym open. I do.
Yeah, and no, absolutely, and I respect everything with that. And this is not about.
There's something else happening that I can't.
I'm sorry.
What are we hearing?
I just hear an echo of you speaking. Yeah, Brian, can I just ask, is it anybody here's understanding? I think I'm hearing from both Tony and from Nancy that it sounds like that the governor's requiring us to shut this down. That's a different, if the governor.
The governor is allowing fitness centers to be open at 25% capacity is what the order that we've read.
Now, but Councilman Bloomberg said earlier that if the local jurisdiction is more stringent, then we have to go by that. Is that anybody's understanding?
We are a separate unit of government, so I believe the board has the opportunity to govern our district in the manner that they believe is consistent with our mission and also with the health and safety of the public as well. So that's what I've been advised. But again, I think that just to clarify, by no means do we want to have, are we suggesting any programs or recreation programs that would be any more than 10 people at one time? And in fact, all programs are canceled. It is only the ability for someone to come one-on-one in a fitness center or no more than 10 people within our building, which the fitness area is about 20,000 square feet, to be able to exercise if this is something that they consider for themselves to be an essential component of their health. So, but again, I completely understand the concerns that are presented with the situation, and obviously our suggestion and hope was only based on information that we are reading from IDPH, CDC, and other organizations that had said fitness centers were safe and low transmitted, and our standards far exceeded any guideline, even the governor's guideline. But you know that again was the information that I shared with the board.
Right, but unfortunately, we're seeing so many conflicting opinions on this topic from the national level and on down. And if we haven't, and my point has been, and I'm not as eloquent as some of our speakers, We have an opportunity here to assist in controlling a disease that's decimating lives. I've said this.
Can I-
No, I just want to say, I've said this, I don't know how many times I have to say this. I could not support our district not closing that facility. And I'll say this, if we don't close this one, why are we closing the others? We can make the same accommodations and cut it down to 5 people skating in an ice rink. I just can't see the logic of what we're doing. And I'm sorry, I just am
Oh, wait,
frustrated by.
before Councilman Blueberg speaks, can we go through our board first?
Of course.
I mean, look, Tony, Councilman Blueberg, no offense, but let us finish our discussion and I'm more than happy.
I completely agree. I apologize for interrupting. You're completely right.
I've said my piece. Terry, do you have any more questions or comments?
No, that's it.
Okay. Lori?
Yeah, I'm here. Mayor Rodering, thank you for joining this call. I'm glad you brought up our elderly population. I don't think that's something that has been taken into account. We do have an elderly population. We know, 60% of residents don't have kids in our school district. So I think that's important to note. As I've said from the beginning, this seems very, very easy for me. And while I understand, the governor, has taken his stance and he's leaving it up to each city. And our mayor is trying to keep the community safe, and that entails our cooperation. So I am 110% in favor of closing the rec center and any other facility. As I pointed out before, my son is an 8th grader, so I receive emails letting me know that students have contracted COVID, and that means they have family. So those family members are walking around in our facilities, even our grocery stores, possibly knowing or not knowing that they are positive for COVID. So I think it's our responsibility to support the mayor and the city council on this. We are talking about the safety of our residents. This is beyond programming. This is about our community and keeping residents safe.
Thank you, Lori. Brian Kaplan?
Yes, Mayor Rodering, Councilman Blueberg, I appreciate both of you being here tonight. And I think you know how my stance is on how I feel about you both personally. I think following up on what Commissioner Grossberg was saying, part of what has thrown us is the timing of this, in that, as I understand it, there were conversations with President Rottenberg and Executive Director Romes yesterday afternoon, and then we all found this out this morning. I think that's where Commissioner Grossberg was going with the timing. I'm not sure I understand the edict from the point that we Highland Park are closing fitness, but nothing else, when the governor is allowing fitness to an extent. I know the chart that Mayor Rodering and Councilman Bloomberg sent me from the IDC. I have a chart from the IDPH showing a 1.75% rate at a gym or health club and a 3.12% rate just at your home. Barney, I disagree with your amendment. It's got to be all or nothing. I'm not sure how we can pick or choose what to open and what not to open. But other than everything else I've said, and I'm not one to want to repeat, I have no more.
All right, I believe Lori had a question that she wanted to ask.
Yeah, just for clarification, I know that Mayor Rodering said that you spoke, Barney, and it was Mayor Rodering who contacted you on the urgency of this, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And then Mayor Rodering, did you also speak to Cal? Commissioner Bernstein said he also spoke with you, but you didn't mention that.
I spoke with him this afternoon, or either in person or by text. And
Okay.
Brian, if I could answer your timing question. So the data from Lake County Health and from IDPH comes out on Mondays. So we got the weekend data. We saw 177 cases over the weekend. That indicated a significant increase in cases. And we said we need to do something immediately. And that's how we went to reduce gathering size. And that's how we said, boy, you know what? There's still one high risk activity that's been left open. We need to take action. Again, none of this is done lightly. These are horrible and difficult decisions. Nobody wants to be told they can't go eat with a friend at a restaurant. Nobody wants to be told they can't go skating now. But these are necessary actions to protect people as we try to clamp down on the spread of this infection. And I don't mean to be gross, but that's what it is. Let's not say mitigate cases. Let's talk about the fact that we're trying to stop the spread of an infectious disease. That's all we're trying to do. And if we can do it for 30 days, maybe we can help save some lives. Maybe we can take the load off our hospitals that are heading towards being beyond capacity. I mean, not to be too dramatic. Cal, are you waving at me to stop talking? No, he can't.
Yes, I have to leave the meeting. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mayor, and I would never interrupt the mayor, but I have another commitment. I could come back after my other meeting. I have a Plan and Design Commission meeting tonight in front of your in the city of Highland Park, which has already just started. So I am now late for that meeting, which I have to get to. But I would just, and we can postpone the vote. I can come back as soon as my matter is over. But the issue that brings us here tonight is that we have two conflicting orders. We have an order from the governor, and we have an order from the mayor, which basically are very consistent except for one issue, and that's regarding the health clubs. And so what we've been struggling with, because obviously we found out about this morning, about what we've been struggling with is, why is there the inconsistency between the two orders? What's the justification for a more strict order by the city versus what the governor imposed this afternoon? We're in full agreement. I mean, we're 98% there with the city's order. It's just one minor issue. I say minor. Just one issue with regard to the governor's order, which allows health facilities to be health clubs to be open with, I believe, Brian, is it 20 or 25% capacity?
25% capacity.
And then and staff is recommending basically a 10% capacity. That's the only deviation between what the governor ordered today and what from my understanding, what the city ordered this morning. So that's what we've been struggling with as a board, to try to reconcile those two different orders, and should try to see, I mean, again, this is not our area of expertise. We're now, we're 8 hours into this trying to digest this, but these have real implications for the park district. We have membership that's expecting to go to the gym. We have employees that are working there expecting to go to work. And how does this all impact? There's a lot of issues that need to be resolved. Especially, I mean, it's easy if the governor said shut it down. The governor said shut it down is throughout the entire state. But now we have these conflicting orders, and we're trying to reconcile that. That's my piece, and I apologize. I know this is a very important matter, but I notified the board earlier today that I would have to leave at some point. I thought it was going to be earlier than this, but I have to leave. I could come back after my other meeting is over, and we could take this up at that point. But again, I apologize. I'm not trying to shirk my responsibility, but as my mother would say, your tuchus can't be in two places at the same time. And I have to be at this other meeting.
Okay, well, Cal, before you go, we could take a vote.
I'm sorry, my other meeting started, so I'm leaving right now. I'll come back if you're unable to reach a consensus between the four of you, I'll come back and I'll make a decision at that point. I apologize. So at this point, I'm putting you on mute.
If I may, did you guys have a chance to see the governor's press conference today?
I did not. Cal said he watched it carefully, so.
I did not.
Okay. I mean, I'll be honest. I think we're splitting hairs at this point. I think it's a matter of days before the rest of this tumbles down. The reason why at the moment, maybe because people psychologically need some time to get used to the idea that things are getting shut down. But I'll be honest with you, he has indicated absolutely we are heading towards another shutdown. And he said, and I hate to even bring this visual, we don't want to look like Italy last spring. We don't want to look like New York City last spring. We are headed in that direction where people are not going to be able to get health care. I recognize this is what you guys do and this is why you were elected, but I beg of you, please do the right thing for your city. Make this happen. It's going on everywhere else in the city and we're doing it for the right reason. We're doing it to keep people safe.
Nancy, I'm sorry, Mayor Rodderington. Am I correct that the governor's order does give way to local home rule municipalities?
Yes, yes, that's part of the issue. Lake County is not a home rule county, so they cannot put in place county-wide regulations in this regard. And so whenever we're asking them to move in that direction, they'll then say back to us, you are a home rule community. You can create laws that are relevant to your residents. So we in Highland Park are home rule. We are able to do this.
And I'm bringing that up because Terry and neither Terry nor Lori are attorneys. And, you know, from my understanding, and you'll please correct me if I'm wrong, the home rule municipality has the authority to mandate the closing.
We do.
And our vote is, to be inconsistent with that, would be direct confrontation between two governmental entities, regardless of the opinion that we may have heard from, and which I did not hear or participate in, from our council. I mean,
That's correct.
Well, I thought I had asked that question of Brian. So we have the legal ability to disagree with the city government, but the city government has a right to say what they said. Is that what we're kind of getting?
I wonder if I can.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Grossberg, I wanted to speak to that when you brought it up last time, because I'm not sure the answer you got was direct.
Okay.
The city of Highland Park is a home rule unit. As a home rule unit under the law, we can pass stricter laws than state laws. We can't necessarily abrogate state laws that may be stricter than we want, but we can make stricter local laws than the state. And this is consistent with that. And I think that's what you were asking about. So the governor's mandate, where the city doesn't speak in one way or the other on a particular matter, what the governor has mandated for the state controls. Where the city elects to assert home rule and do something stricter in a particular area, that's controlling. So there's no conflict. The state law gives way to the stricter home rule legislation. And that's true here. Frankly, that was true when we banned assault rifles. And it's true in zoning and a variety of other laws. That is different, as I understand it, from the kinds of things that the Park District can do. I do think that the Park District may not really have a choice in following this mandate. I don't think there's settled law on it, but there are related issues like that. But the other thing that I wanted to speak to you about that I'm concerned is when we talk about the safety issue and making a safe environment, we're not concerned with the safety of somebody who enters the rec center. We're concerned with the other people that that person comes into contact with after leaving the rec center, and the people that become exposed to asymptomatic carriers who may pick up these germs in what has been defined as a dangerous environment. I'm not aware of any scientific studies that don't categorize gymnasiums as I previously described. So I hope you will consider carefully that the issue is trying to keep others safe from the spread of germs that may emanate from somebody being in the gymnasium. Does that make sense?
Well, I guess, well, the second part, I hear you. The first part, it's still confusing to me because I'm getting different answers. So it seems to me that the home rule of because if someone tells me, and we had counsel here or whatever, that if the mayor proposes it and the city council passes it, then the park board is swept up in that ruling and we would be defying a local ordinance by doing what we're thinking about doing, then I would not be for that, obviously. But if we are an independent government or unit and we do have our own say on things, then that's a different case. So that's where I'm just a little bit stuck because I don't want to break any ordinances or any rules or any laws.
Terry,
Well,
can I wait, can I give Terry an analogy?
Wait, can I ask a question before you give your analogy?
Of course.
Because if the last 2.5 hours it hasn't been diddle, if it doesn't matter what we vote, that we have to, by law or
That's what I'm
statute,
saying.
that we have to follow the city mandate anyway. Why have I just wasted 2.5 hours of my time discussing it?
Exactly.
Because Brian Romes needs direction from his park board as to what to
But
do.
what direction can we give if we cannot oppose the home rule? That's his direction.
Right.
I
I
think
think
that's
what you've heard from the mayor is a desire based on her earlier discussions and our manager's earlier discussions to work with you.
well, I understand that, but
I think it's important to note that back on March 14th, the council gave me the ability to issue emergency orders in connection with COVID. We have
Yeah, I
not used
understand.
that power significantly. We've used it 2 or 3 times. I believe this is the 3rd time. So it is always in an effort to mitigate COVID. That's where this order has come from. I'm not sure that the law has been tested because we haven't had a pandemic in the past. But again, that would be a pathetic use of resources if we sued each other.
Right.
I
No,
think-
I wouldn't want
I
to.
think Gary's point, and I'm now understanding it and agree with him, is if the power is all being, I'll call it, and I don't mean to be sarcastic, and if we vote one way, but the home rule says something else, we have to follow that home rule anyway, that's the direction that our staff should have.
Right.
And if that's how it is, then our staff shouldn't have wasted all their time today discussing it, and we shouldn't have spent the last 2.5 hours discussing it. Then I understand how laws work, and I understand how statutes work and procedure works. And I understand if that's what it is, that's what it is. But if that's the way it is, why are we having this conversation?
Because there's insecurity and uncertainty on staff's part as to whether as to what to do, and is it contrary to the will of the park board, and are we prepared to contest the executive order and say it doesn't apply to us? Those are the questions that is being led into by, are we prepared to direct the executive director to comply with the executive order from the city, or or not?
Well, if the choices which were given to me were had this conversation as to whether or not we want to litigate an issue with the city,
Right.
then that's a no-brainer. I wouldn't do that. But
Same.
if we had a choice in the matter, I was going to hear what staff had to say and discuss it like an adult. But if we don't have a choice in the matter, I'm not going to tell staff and our council to go sue the city because I don't like their home rule rules.
Right. If you're just asking us to go along with it, but if there's nothing behind it, then the last 2.5 hours hasn't been a waste. But if you're telling us that this is the law, it has in some ways. I just think there's a fundamental lack of understanding about that. I mean, I could flip it around and say, okay, if there is some malleability here, then we'll agree with 98% of what you're saying. The one exception Brian Romes is asking and his staff is asking for is for the rec center. We would be the ones that are bending almost the entire way to everything you're asking, but he's asking for, can we just try this with the rec center? If I'm summing that up correctly, I believe we're doing everything else correctly, right?
We're adhering to the governor's order for everything else. And there has been discussion as to whether or not we are willing to adhere to the mayor's executive order, with the thought that if we don't appreciate it and think it doesn't apply to us, then it leaves Executive Director Romes at a quandary as to what to do. So he is asking for us to, I'll put it this way, affirm that we are governed by the executive order that the city of Highland Park has issued.
Well, that's a completely different question than we started at 6 o'clock.
How can we affirm that without having a legal opinion on the matter?
Well, I mean,
think-
it's just a different question than we were posed at 6 o'clock this evening. That's a fundamentally different question.
It's a subset of the question of, should we close the rec center for the safety of the public in Highland Park?
No.
Yes, it is, Terry. There's
No.
two different questions. There's two
No.
questions.
No. It's the power of home rule versus the power of Park District being independent. And you could complete the health and wellness of our citizens. Not that it's not important, but it's not a part of this legal question. And I'm not a lawyer, you're right. But those are two very independent questions, because if it was answered that we have to follow the home rule, we would have been done by 6:15.
Brian Romes, what did our council tell you in the conversation you had with them?
They advised that, in their opinion, they did not believe that based on the governor's order that the city or the mayor would have the authority to close our facility. But of course, we have the option to choose to comply with the city's ordinance or to choose otherwise.
Which takes us back to the reason for asking the park board to make a decision as to what they want to do.
Okay.
Well, I just think I feel like a jerk if we had to do this the whole time, and I don't like to disobey the orders of the city. But
I think you've heard, Terry, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think you just heard that legal counsel did not give a black and white answer. I wasn't on the call. I have no idea what was said or how it was directed. So because of that, it's been requested that the park board make a decision.
Okay, I think what I'm gonna do right now is I'm going to decide right now in front of everybody that the city has home rule, and I disagree with it, but I'm going to vote to close down the rec center because I don't want to go against this and I don't want any sort of thing going on. So Brian, of course, Kaplan, you have the right to vote however you'd like, but it seems like I do not want to get in a pissing contest with the city about this, and we've been debating this for a long time, and so that's the way I'm going to go.
Is there any objection to my calling the question on the amendment then?
I don't know if there's any value in this other than the city's resolution was to close a fitness facility, which would mean we would close the fitness facility. I guess Obviously, we would still be doing outdoor fitness and be able to have staff in the building per the governor's order. And the city's order does allow for the building to be open. It just requires the fitness component is closed. We're not closing that building altogether.
Now you're like Cal when I was talking about the taxes. But it basically, putting it in simple words, you can't go and work out.
Yes, that's correct. That would be what the city's order is.
Okay. Is there an objection to calling the question then?
I do want to say, though, I would hope that in the future, and something, I know we're handling a pandemic for the first time ever, but when there's something that the city is debating about and that and it involves something critical to the park district, that it, instead of, I don't know how it was framed, but I would appreciate that the board would be able to meet before it was publicly communicated what the policy was going to be. You have every right to do it however you want, but in the honor of facilitation and intergovernmental agreement, it would just have been nice. I didn't talk to Nancy. I wasn't privy to any of those conversations. And then this was just kind of loaded on us at this afternoon. And now we have to make this decision that affects all these people's lives. I would just appreciate it if we would add some chance to let it tumble through our brains before it was communicated out.
Sure. Terry, that's a valid point. And I think, as Mayor Rottering said, it wasn't until the numbers got disseminated that everybody said words like, oh my God, look what's happening in Highland Park. And so it was something that I think had to be done in the city's mind quickly.
In a mind, yes, a couple of extra hours wouldn't have hurt, in my opinion.
Okay. So let me then, at this point, call for a vote on the amendment, which it's all technical, an amendment to adhere to the governor's order mandate, but including the executive order from the city of Highland Park that would require us to no longer operate the recreation center for this 30-day period for fitness activities. Brian, did I say that right?
I think you added the second part, which was, I think, a key component, and you need a second.
We didn't have a second?
No.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We'll take a vote. Is Roxanne still there?
Not that there's any more discussion, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any further discussion?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Roxanne, would you please call the roll? Or Brian, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein.
He meant Brian Romes.
I believe he meant Brian Romes, but Commissioner Bernstein is not on the phone, so that would go to Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores Weisskopf,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Based upon the mayor's statement that this is a home rule that we have to follow, and I have no desire to enter into litigation with the sister government over this, I vote aye.
and President Kaplan.
I vote aye, but that's okay. I understood what you said. Me too. All right, so the amendment passed. Now we have to vote on the motion to approve the proposed operational plans for facilities and programs and consistent, I forgot what it was, so long as the governor does not mandate. No, that's not right anymore. It's a motion to approve, we'll put it in the right words, adherence to the governor's executive order mandating the changes that Brian has outlined to facilities and including the cessation of fitness activities at the Recreation Center of Highland Park.
When does that take effect?
It takes effect at midnight.
Tonight.
Might even be 11:59. Yes.
And I better go for my.
Tomorrow.
Brian Kaplan has to run there and work out one more time.
Oh, tomorrow at midnight.
No,
No, tonight.
effective tonight at midnight.
Got
So
it.
tomorrow, so we have to get communication out to everybody after this meeting.
Got it.
Okay, so Brian Romes, do we have a motion that's been seconded?
We don't have a,
The main motion. It had
Why
because
do President
have-
Roy,
clarify, we had a original motion and a second, then we had a motion to change the motion and we had a second, we voted on it. The amendment to the motion has been made. Now we're actually voting on it. So,
Okay. would you please
why-
call? Okay.
why do we need another vote if we voted on the?
we just voted on the amendment to the,
Robert's Rules of Order governs our procedures, sadly. Brian Romes, would you please call the roll?
yes. Commissioner Bernstein is not here, I believe. So that would be Commissioner Grossberg.
I'm sorry, seconding? Is that what I'm doing?
No, you're voting, yes or no?
We're
On the
voting.
motion, on the whole motion now. You voted on the amendment, so the rec center is part of the compliance, but now we have a motion to comply.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Flores Weiskopf,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
I sadly vote aye.
and President Ruttenberg.
I guess I could say for the safety of everybody in Highland Park, I vote aye. Come on, you gotta admit that was cute. All right, the motion passes.
Move the roll.
And thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you for the opportunity to chat with you this evening. Really appreciate your partnership and appreciate your recognizing the severity of the situation. Thank you.
So we'll meet at the gym and work out tomorrow?
In the middle of the
Oh
street.
my God, you're funny.
Thank you. Brian Romes,
Yes.
let's take care of a few other things so that we're somewhat kosher on this, okay? Has there been any public comment?
No.
All right, thank you. We took care of that. Addition to the agenda, I guess we should do that one too, huh? We're changing the motion to approve the following changes to the agenda. Unfinished business, remove Sunset Woods Park Playground renovation design and master plan update, and the Preserve of Highland Park project update. I think I said that right. Remove the financial forecast update from the treasurer's report, and under new business, Parks Foundation update to be removed, director's report on the 2020 season ending report for Sunset Valley Golf Course and the Golf Learning Center. Is there a motion to approve these changes to the agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
let's just do it by a roll call. All in favor?
I think you have to, just real quick. Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf,
Yes.
Vice President Kaplan,
Aye.
President Ruttenberg.
Aye. And we're not going to do the
We're on consent agenda, I believe.
we could do a consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, call the roll, Roxanne.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yep.
President Ruttenberg.
Yes, the motion is carried. Let's have a motion to adjourn.
I think you should just make a motion to reschedule.
To adjourn.
Oh, wait, you want me, oh, I'm sorry, one last thing. A motion to, we'll just be technical, I'm sorry. A motion to defer the resolution 2020-12 truth and taxation until the special meeting that we're scheduling for Thursday. Is there a motion? Somebody move on that, please.
I'll move on it.
Second? I second it. All in favor?
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores Weisskopf,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yes,
President Ruttenberg.
Yes. Now can we have a motion to adjourn? Is
I'll move to adjourn once again.
there a second?
Second.
And we are adjourned at 8:49 PM. Thank God.